The annual Parker family reunion was in full swing at my aunt's sprawling estate when my cousin Madison's voice sliced through the chatter. "Oh, look, Olivia finally made it. Still working as a secretary, sweetie?" I smoothed down my simple black dress, Chanel, though they'd never recognize it, and forced a polite smile. If only they knew. Tomorrow morning, I would be signing the papers to acquire both Madison's struggling tech startup and my cousin Trevor's crumbling investment firm. "Still at Thompson Corporation," I replied quietly, accepting a glass of champagne. What they didn't know was that Thompson Corporation, the firm they dismissed as my dead-end job, was mine. I owned it through a carefully constructed web of shell companies and private equity firms. To them, I was Olivia Parker, the disappointing cousin who never lived up to her potential. In reality, I was OP Holdings, one of the most aggressive and successful private equity investors in the country. Trevor, dressed in an expensive but poorly fitted suit, clapped me on the shoulder. "You know, Liv, I could probably find you something better. My firm is always looking for good administrative support." I sipped my champagne to hide a smile. His firm, Parker Capital, already belonged to me. He just didn't know it yet. 8 years ago, when our grandfather passed, everyone expected his fortune to be divided equally among the grandchildren. Instead, Trevor inherited the investment firm. Madison received seed money for her startup. And I got what everyone thought was the booby prize, his old office downtown and a modest $250,000 trust. Poor Olivia, they had whispered at the will reading. She was always his favorite. Shame he didn't leave her something more substantial. What they didn't realize was that Grandpa's worthless office sat atop property records worth millions. He had quietly spent decades acquiring land rights and mineral claims across the city. More importantly, he taught me everything about building wealth. Quietly, patiently, invisibly. "You're like me, Olivia," he told me in those secret Sunday lessons. "True power doesn't announce itself." Now, watching my family flaunt their designer clothes and luxury watches, I knew how right he'd been. They squandered their inheritances on flashy displays. I had turned mine into an empire. "Olivia, darling," my Aunt Patricia swooped in, air-kissing my cheek. "We missed you at the country club last weekend. Madison was just telling us about her company's latest success. We just closed another round of funding, $10 million, Madison bragged, her smile sharp. "Not that you'd understand tech investments." I thought about the documents on my desk, proving her company had lost money 3 quarters in a row. The new funding was nothing but a desperate lifeline. And tomorrow, she'd discover that the mystery investor propping her up was me. "Sounds fascinating," I murmured. Not to be outdone, Trevor jumped in. "Parker Capital just acquired 3 startups. We're projecting billion-dollar returns by next quarter." I knew better. His firm was hemorrhaging money, drowning in debt. That's why my quiet takeover had been so easy. "How wonderful for you both," I said, meaning it more than they realized. Their desperation had been my greatest advantage. Later, my cousin Ethan wandered over, ever the self-proclaimed financial guru. "Still pushing papers at Thompson, Liv? You know, it's not too late to make something of yourself. Look at Madison and Trevor, they're building empires." If only he knew. The papers I pushed were acquisition contracts for half of downtown Boston. Thompson Corporation, under my leadership, had quietly become one of the largest property holders in 3 states. "We can't all be entrepreneurs," I replied softly, thinking of OP Holdings. My empire made theirs look like corner lemonade stands. The afternoon dissolved into more subtle digs. Even my mother joined in, lamenting how I had wasted my degree by becoming a secretary. Madison overheard and laughed. "Comfortable? Oh, honey, you should want more than that. My company's about to revolutionize the tech industry. We're raising another round next month." From OP Holdings, Trevor added. "They're the biggest player right now. Very mysterious. But they're interested in both our companies." I hid my smile behind my glass. "I've heard of them," I said carefully. "Quite the portfolio they're building." "Stick to filing papers, Liv," Madison scoffed. "Leave the real business to those of us who understand it." At dinner, Trevor boasted between bites of steak. "Parker Capital is about to close the biggest deal in our history. Once OP Holdings signs on, we'll be unstoppable." Madison rolled her eyes. Please. OP Holdings is far more interested in my platform than your fossil of a firm. If only they knew. Both companies already belong to me. Olivia, dear, my mother called from across the table. Have you thought about night classes? Maybe an MBA? It's not too late for a real career. I'm fine where I am, Mom, I said, touching the small key around my neck, the key to Grandpa's old office, where it had all begun. Trevor shook his head. No ambition. No drive. Grandpa would be so disappointed. I smiled faintly. I think Grandpa understood me better than you realize. As the evening wound down, I excused myself. Big day at work tomorrow, I said lightly. Don't work too hard filing papers, Madison called after me, laughing. In my car, a modest Audi with an armored exterior, I dialed my assistant. Is everything ready for tomorrow? Yes, Miss Parker. The contracts are prepared. The boards have been notified. Your cousins won't know what hit them. At home, in my penthouse overlooking the city, I reviewed the final documents. Tomorrow, OP Holdings would reveal its true identity. My family would finally learn the truth. Their underachieving cousin had built something far greater than they ever imagined. On my desk sat the last photo of Grandpa and me. His knowing smile seemed to whisper his favorite lesson. The best success is the kind they never see coming, until it's too late. Nervous habits, I observed. They know their companies are in trouble. They just don't know how much. The conference room stretched across the entire top floor, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a sweeping view of the city. Trevor and Madison sat on opposite sides of the massive table, both trying, and failing, to look confident. Their lawyers looked even more uneasy. What's she doing here? Madison demanded when I entered. This is a private meeting with OP Holdings. Trevor nodded stiffly. Olivia, I know you mean well, but this is far beyond your understanding. Why don't you get us some coffee while we wait for the real executives? I set my briefcase on the table, savoring the moment. Actually, I said evenly, I think you'll find I understand the situation perfectly. Sarah, my assistant, began distributing folders. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, please review the documents before you. You'll find complete proof of OP Holdings' ownership of both Parker Capital and Madison Tech, along with the proposed merger terms. The color drained from Trevor's face as he flipped through the pages. Madison's hands trembled. This has to be a mistake, she whispered. OP Holdings is. Olivia Parker, I finished for her, sliding into the head seat. Founder and CEO of OP Holdings. Majority shareholder of Thompson Corporation. And as of this morning, the owner of both your companies. Trevor slammed his hand on the table. This is impossible. You're a secretary. No, I corrected him. I let you believe I was a secretary. Just like I let you believe Grandpa's office was worthless. Just like I let you think your companies were still yours to control. But my tech platform, Madison stammered, has been losing money for 3 quarters straight, I cut in. The only reason you got that last round of funding was because I arranged it through one of my subsidiaries. Trevor was frantically flipping through documents. Parker Capital, my father's company, has been mine for months, I said quietly. Those risky investments you made to cover your losses? I bought up the debt, piece by piece, waiting for this moment. The doors burst open. My mother rushed in, followed by half the family, clearly summoned by Trevor and Madison's panicked texts. What's going on? Why are Trevor and Madison saying something about Olivia and OP Holdings? Perfect timing, I said smoothly. Sarah, please start the presentation. The wall screen lit up, displaying a sprawling web of companies, acquisitions, and investments. My empire, built quietly over 8 years while my family dismissed me as a secretary. OP Holdings, I explained, controls over $500 million in assets across real estate, technology, and private equity. That includes Thompson Corporation, Parker Capital, Madison Tech, and about 30 other companies you've never heard of. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. But how? Remember Grandpa's old office building? I asked. The worthless inheritance you all pitted me for? It came with property rights and mineral claims worth millions. While you flaunted your successes, I built something real. Madison found her voice again, anger replacing shock. You deceived us. All those years, pretending to be the quiet little secretary. Like you pretended your company wasn't drowning in debt. I countered. Or Trevor bragging about his empire while making desperate bets to stay afloat. We were building something. Trevor protested. No, I said firmly. You were pretending. Success isn't about looking powerful, it's about being powerful. I turned to the lawyers. Now, shall we discuss the merger terms? Madison's voice broke. You can't do this. Actually, I already did. While you laughed at the secretary, I was learning, connecting, building. Grandpa taught me that real power doesn't need to announce itself. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. Or would you have tried to take control, like you did with everything else in my life? I opened my briefcase and drew out an old photograph. Grandpa, in his office, smiling as he taught me about property rights and quiet power. He knew what he was doing when he left me that building. He knew I'd understand its true value. The next hours blurred with negotiations. By the end, both Madison and Trevor reluctantly admitted their companies needed the stability OP Holdings could provide. Their pride was broken, but their positions, at least for now, were safe. When the lawyers left, my mother lingered. All these years, she whispered, we thought we were the successful ones. Success doesn't always need to announce itself, I replied, remembering Grandpa's words. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the most powerful. In the months that followed, everything changed. Madison's company, properly managed, finally began showing promise. Trevor, stripped of his CEO title but kept on as an advisor, started truly learning the business. And my family, their condescension vanished. When they asked about my work, they listened. Really listened. I kept Grandpa's office. Renovated it, but left his desk untouched. Some nights I sat there, turning the key I still wore around my neck, remembering his lessons about patience and quiet strength. One evening, I found Trevor waiting in the lobby. All those years we spent competing, showing off, we missed what Grandpa was really teaching us, he admitted. I smiled. And what was that? That real success isn't about looking powerful. It's about being powerful. You built an empire while we played pretend. I touched the key. Want to know the real secret, Trevor? He nodded. Success doesn't need an audience. It needs patience, wisdom, and the strength to keep going when everyone else thinks you're failing. As I left that night, I looked up at the city skyline, my skyline, though few knew it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong. Sometimes it's proving yourself right, quietly, completely, until the truth is undeniable. And sometimes, that truth comes with a $500 million empire, and the sweetest vindication of all, success on your own terms.